Welcome to the DNA show.
DNA? Dude, are we doing a science show?
No, D is for Dennis.
Oh, A is for Andy.
And N is for and?
Oh, man, nerds.
Oh, yeah.
We're nerds, dude.
Yeah. Well, good. Then we can talk about comics and movies and pop culture and sports.
Sports. Sports and nerds. Yeah, we're going to make that work.
All right, let's roll.
Oh yeah, Heidi ho, welcome back to the Dennis and Andy show. I believe we all know what that glorious music is. I'm Andy with my buddy.
This is Dennis. Welcome back, everybody.
What was that music, Dennis?
Oh, it's football time.
Football! Foot freaking ball is back. I am happy.
Favorite sport. Favorite sport.
Favorite sport. I realized we actually just got business cards made up. And I did realize on our the image that I created for the Dennis and Andy show, it says comics, movies, sports, and more. And I'm thinking to myself, it probably should have been comics, movies, football, and more, because sports have been going on, and we don't really talk because I don't watch anything else.
Yeah, the basketball has really taken it deflated me this year, even though my Bucks were in it and stuff, and baseball, same thing with the Brewers. But you know, football's always that renewed sense of hope, and especially this time of year when it's fantasy football time. We said on last episode, Dennis always does fantasy with his wife and his buddies and stuff, and somebody dropped. So he invited me in, and I was like, I usually don't do fantasy because I'm a lazy sack of crap. But I was like, let's do it. And I'm happy to say, Dennis, I did not lose this week. Huh.
I did not lose. There's no L behind my name.
But is there a W?
There is no W behind the Dirty Boys either. There is a T for tie.
I was going to say, did you lose? Did you win? Did you play?
Oh, we played.
Oh, that's right. First tie of the season.
109 to 109. I was amazed when I saw that.
So what's always funny, we've been doing this for like 10 years now. My buddy Chad, he's the commissioner of our league, he and I, like almost every year, wind up tying, usually at least one game, not always, sometimes two. And it's just funny. I mean, it's kind of hard to tie in the league, but it's not impossible, but we usually wind up tying. Well, I haven't played Chad yet, but all of a sudden I found out Andy got a tie in the first week. It was Andy and I think my sister-in-law from Oklahoma. So, yep, we got our first tie. Me?
How'd you shake out?
I didn't shake too well.
Uh-oh.
I really did poorly. Both my quarterbacks let me down. I had Prescott from Dallas and Stafford from Detroit. Both of them underperformed. And then the one and Ingram, my running back, way underperformed. And then the one that killed me, and I debated. I had Minnesota's defense, but my Green Bay Packers stepped up and lit them up for 43 points. So that gave me -4 points for my defense. And I lost by 9. So all I needed was an average showing, because if Minnesota would have got the projected 7, I would have won. If Prescott would have got me that extra touchdown and the few extra yards, I would have won. But it's a game of inches. It's a game of points.
I tell you. And so I'm a Dallas fan. Dennis is a Green Bay fan, so when we talk, we'll talk about our teams. Let's. So you guys played Minnesota.
Yep.
Green Bay played Minnesota, and I almost texted you when it looked like Minnesota was going to win. Early on, they were up, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! I should text Dennis." And then as I kept watching, I would flip back and forth. I had the Sunday ticket. That was an early game, so I would go back and forth between that and a few other games. And as I saw, I think I went back and I saw Green Bay had the lead, and I was like, oh, God damn it. Forget it. Damn, he's going to get a win. He's going to get a win.
Yeah, and they did, and it was close, but not super close. The Packers wound up winning, handily against Minnesota, 43-34.
Did you just say it was close? That is not close.
It kind of is close because,
okay.
9 points, it's a touchdown, field goal, and they were scoring points left. Minnesota scored 24 points in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So realistically, what's another 10 points?
That's true.
They could do it. So a couple of interesting things did happen during the fantasy football week because, we talked about it on the earlier podcast. So I picked up Gronkowski as my tight end. He's my dark horse. And he didn't do anything. But what I was interested in was, Tom Brady, Gronk, on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Brady's my quarterback. He is. He got me some good points.
Yeah.
Not as many as I'd like.
But he did well. But he didn't get the win. So, and then on the flip side, for all you Panther fans out there, they had Superman and, he's over up at the Patriots then, he runs in 2 touchdowns.
And that was one of the early games. So the early games I was flipping back for were the Green Bay, Minnesota game, the Cam Newton Patriots Miami game, which I pretty much knew the outcome of that game, even though I thought this was funny. At the end of the first quarter, it was still 0-0. It has been 15 years, they said, since a Patriots-Miami game did not have a score at the end of the first quarter.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it.
Because Courtney, my daughter's a Miami fan. Now, her main team is the Bucks, but she likes all Florida teams. So when it was 0-0, I thought to myself, actually, I think I even said it to her. I said, this has got to be some type of record. 0-0 Miami Patriots at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then the announcer's like, and this is a record. First time in 15 years since the Patriots have not scored over Miami in the first quarter. Or there hasn't been a score, so maybe flip-flop it. So that was interesting. And then hometown, I flipped back to the Carolina game, the Panthers, and I'm trying to remember who they played now. Oh my God. They played the Las Vegas Raiders because I want to see how Teddy Bridgewater did. And basically this rebuilding of a Panthers team, and they did pretty good. Yeah. So,
well, I guess my biggest question with those two teams, with the Panthers and Tampa Bay or Patriots, and so with Superman and Tom Brady going to their new teams, Brady got the L and Newton got the W. This is what we've been talking about going into this season. I mean, there's a long way to go, but did the team revolve around the players, or was it the system that they were in? Is it the system?
I think it's too early to tell.
I agree.
Because you also have to look at it like I would compare those games if the Patriots played a caliber of team of like that's in their same caliber, same league, no pun intended. Because basically you had the two best NFC South teams play against each other in week 1. You had the Bucks, who have built a really good team with Brady in the forefront, play against the Saints. Whereas you had the Patriots, who are still, a good team. Cam Newton looked really good, but they played, no offense, Miami fans, they played Miami. Now, if they would have played somebody else in their division that was better or just more equal, more evenly matched, I'd be curious to see how Cam did.
So we'll see. Miami might be okay. And Eric, if you're listening, we know you're a Miami fan, but it's okay. We're rooting for you.
Eric, year. I don't know you, so all I can say is I wouldn't want to be a Miami fan right now.
You may see him on Saturday.
Oh. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
You might want to listen to the podcast. Andy just dissed you.
So then going to my team, the Cowboys, was I let down by their loss against the Rams? No. And I say that because I legit went into it thinking they're not going to win. They're playing the Rams, who are a very good team in a brand new stadium. And it's the Cowboys. And whenever I can be let down by the Cowboys, I usually am. So I don't set my sights high. I just went into it thinking if they do win, they'll win close, but they'll probably lose close. And what happened? 6 minutes left in the game. I called it a night and went to bed because I saw it was 20-17. And I just thought, 6 minutes in NFL football is at least 20 minutes of gameplay. I just didn't see it happening.
Yep.
I did not see it happening. And I wake up the next day and I see the final was 17-20. So I had that premonition, but I did not foresee a chance for them to tie it up and the new head coach, McCarthy, decide to not tie it up and go balls to the wall and go for it on 4th down. I'm justifying it. Dennis, this is how I justify not being so upset. Is if it was Jason Garrett doing that, I would have been like, dude, you've been the coach for a decade or so. Why? You know the team. Tie it up. But I figure, you know what? It's a new coach. There's been no preseason. So he's probably thinking to himself, you know what? I'm going to go for it. If we end up losing the game, it's only the first game of the year. It's not like we were going to have a perfect record. And I'm the new coach. I'm getting familiar with the team. Let's just put them out there, see what they can do. What the hell? I don't know. I mean, that's how I'm telling myself so I can get over it easier, even though I figured they'd lose.
So after you got off your pillow that was wet from crying all night, you threw it in the dryer, and then you figured, cried your pillows sopping because the Cowboys lost. This is the way I look at it. McCarthy's the ex-Packer coach. Got a Super Bowl under it. How many times have we seen it where it was close? We had a lot of close Packer games in our time. And then, extra point ties it up, and then 2-point conversion could win it, or you lose it. Well, we'll kick the extra point, go into overtime. Whenever he did that, most of the time, it was like, yeah, I think Packers are going to lose it. Luck just said it. We're not going to get the coin flip. We're not going to do it. We'll screw something up. It's just bad news for us to go into it. I got a feeling some of that's in McCarthy's head going, right. You know what? If we kick the field goal here, which he'll make, go into overtime, and we'll probably wind up losing it. So why not just get the win and go for it? I have faith that I have this big offensive line that can move anybody unless they can't this play.
Right.
And was it a matter of they just didn't execute? Was it a poorly called play? So the thing is, McCarthy had the McCarthy experience in this season that he took off of coaching. So he broke down. It was, you guys can look it up online, but it's a really interesting thing. So he breaks everything down. What is the percentage of chance that you're going to run this type of a play on this particular situation and this down, etc. And he broke down football into this numbers game. So I'm pretty sure in his numbers, he was like, giving the scenario in this, we've got X percent chance of making this work. Those are good enough odds for me. We're going to go for it. And it didn't roll in its favor. It's like going to Vegas.
Like I said, if this was a do or die game, late in the season, you got to pull it out, I would have been a lot more upset. But with the first game of the year, I have no preconceived notion that Dallas was going to go 16-0. So I'm like, okay, they lost one. Get it out of the way, The thing that kills me, and I swear, every year, I wish the analysts in the summer leading up to the season, it's like they always say, the Cowboys have such a strong team. This is their year. You can see them this. And I'm just like, what you've done that for like 4 years. Oh, they're going to rule the NFC East. And I'm just like, oh my God, would you shut up? Like, do I think that they're going to be probably first or second place? Yeah. Because I don't think the Giants are going to do that great this year. I don't think the Redskins are. But the Eagles are the team that worry me. Now, I will say the Eagles game Sunday was phenomenal because the Redskins came back and scored, I think, 20-some unanswered points against them to win. And
The who?
Washington.
The Washington football team. By the way, we're going to say Redskins all season. It's just not going to
Even a couple of the announcers did it during the game.
Yeah.
And they were like, Washington.
Yes.
So the Washington football team came back, scored unanswered points on them and won. And, I've always liked Ron Rivera as a coach when he was here at the Panthers.
Me too.
He's a really nice guy. I remember when he played for the Bears. He's just a stand-up. You really get a better sense of a coach when they're, coach the team that's in your city, and seeing him in commercials and around town. He's just such a nice guy. And then, over the summer or spring, he found out he had cancer. So he's going through cancer treatments to the extent of during halftime, he has to get an IV. And one of the Washington football team players stepped up to give a talk during halftime to the team saying, look, guys, we got to rally and come back. And, I'm glad that he got a win. Now, I don't want them to be in the NFC championship game, and I don't want them to be in the playoffs because they're in my division.
Yep.
But, if I want them to have a nice season, I'll go that far.
See, and in the Packers division, I still think it's a toss-up. The Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears, they're all good teams. And you just never know what team's going to show up this year.
Let's do this. Let's go on the record and give our prediction for how, for me, the NFC East shakes down at the end of the year, and for you, the NFC Central. North. So for the NFC East, and we'll do it for each. So I'll break down what I think the top four in the NFC East will be, or the four, the order, and Dennis will, and then we'll do it with the NFC North. So for the East, because I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm going to go Cowboys at 1. They win the division.
At what record?
I don't know. I'm not going to go that far.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going that far because I suck at that stuff. But we'll still be able to play the tape back, weeks from now to see how we did just doing this. So I say Cowboys take the division. Eagles are second. I'm going to go Redskins at 3 and Giants at 4.
He means Washington football team.
Washington football team at 3 and Giants at 4.
All right.
So that's it. For the North, I keep saying West. For the North, at number 1, I'm going to go Packers, and then I'm going Bears, and then I say it's Vikings and then Lions, because I think the Bears. I was surprised to see the Bears win this past week over the Lions.
Yep.
And if they do have to bench Trubisky for any reason, I think they've got a great backup in Foles. So I think the Packers will pull it out. But I think, and without getting into wins and losses, I think they squeak it out over the Bears. I don't think they blow it out with a ton of wins over the Bears. But I think they squeak it out. Then Bears second place, Minnesota, Lions.
All right. So I, of course, am going to go Packers for taking it, because I think it's going to be a tough season. I think it's going to be like a 10-6, 9-7 kind of season
for the Packers.
To take, but that's winning the division. I think it's going to be.
You think the Packers could win with a 9-7?
I do, or 10-6.
All right,
I do.
Once you're done, I'll throw down some predictions, I guess, for the NFC East.
So I think the Packers take it. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think they have a better, well-rounded team than the Bears, but I really think the Bears' defense, especially with Khalil
Who's
Mack.
their quarterback? The Vikings now?
Bridgewater.
No, Vikings is Kirk
Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, yeah. Oh, and he just signed a big extension and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bridgewater moved on.
Yeah, Bridgewater's Saints.
Yep.
Or Panthers.
Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers.
Yep. And I'm going to say Minnesota is just a well-rounded team. I think they're gonna come in second. Bears on the strength of their defense. And then I'm going to say the Lions last. But it isn't like the Lions are going to be like a 2 or 3 or 4 win team. Stafford's still a strong quarterback. They've got he's still a good.
You think so?
Well, you don't think not this week because he's my quarterback.
But do you think he's on his, like, how many more seasons do you see him having?
2.
Okay, so we're on the same page because I was going to say 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's on his down, but he's still solid.
Oh yeah.
He's still solid. He's better than some of the other quarterbacks that are out there. Let's see, in your division, I would probably go. I'm going to say I think the Eagles are going to have. I think they're just it's Eagles or Cowboys, and I almost want to say Cowboys just because
I'm think sitting right here.
No, because McCarthy is a really decent coach, and I just don't know if he's had enough time to turn them around to make them viable. Because they put in a whole new staff. So I'm actually going to say I think the Eagles squeak it out this year. And then I think the Cowboys come in second. But I think the Washington's going to be is going to be right there. I think they're going to be a better team than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. And then in last place would be
Giants.
The Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't see the Giants turning around. But anyway, that's the way I kind of see it right now.
All right, just to get back to the NFC East for me, I said Dallas, Philly, Washington, Giants. I think Dallas will probably win it around. I can see 10-6 taking it. And then I just think, I think Philly will probably pull up just short of 1, like 9-7. The other three, Washington, I don't know. I don't think they'll go 500. So I'll say 7-9. And then the Giants, 6-10.
Yeah,
maybe 5-11.
Washington's got a lot of turmoil, and they've got stuff in the ownership and behind the scenes. There's a lot of distractions out there. But if there's anybody that's going to hold that team together, it's Rivera.
What if their new name was the Washington Wannabes? Well, the Washington Wannabes.
Well,
we want to be a pro football team.
Wow.
The Washington Wannabes pro football team.
So if Washington visits Charlotte this year, I think they're going to come knocking on Andy's door. We heard what you said.
And by the way, in the power rankings, Courtney ran them down before so I know they've changed since the week, but before the game started, on Thursday, Courtney ran them down, and Dallas was number 7. I want to say Green Bay was 13 or 12, something like that.
That would make perfect sense this year. Yeah, I actually didn't see the power rankings.
I don't know what they are now.
Going into them, but yeah, that would make sense. But yeah.
I don't know. I think Green Bay, so you're thinking 9-7? See, I think Green Bay could probably pull out. Well, I don't know their whole schedule. That's the thing. I'm more familiar with Dallas's full schedule for the year. Besides Green Bay's obviously playing in their division. Yep. I really don't know much about their schedule. So without knowing much about their schedule, it's hard to even put down a prediction for their win-loss. But I will, because I'm ballsy like that. I'll say, just to be different from you, contrary, I'll go 11-5.
Okay. Well, and
then I say then if they make it to the NFC Championship game, Dallas beats them. So.
And
then in the Super Bowl in Tampa, Dallas will go to the Sunshine State and bring home the big fat trophy.
Huh.
And they'll fly over Green Bay waving it as they come home.
You mean the trophy that's our namesake?
I don't give a shit whose namesake it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll worry about that. So I did pull up the power rankings since you asked.
So what are they for this week now?
Kansas City is number 1.
Still.
Baltimore number 2.
Yep.
Packers number 3.
Oh.
Yep. And Saints number 4.
And that is Tennessee, this week. That's changed.
Tennessee 5.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah.
Buffalo 6. Pittsburgh 7.
Yeah, that's changed.
Steelers 8.
Oh.
San Francisco 9.
Even though they lost. Wow.
Rams 10. Cowboys 11.
Dump 4 slots. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Who's last?
Oh, hold on. I'll scroll all the way down.
Okay, so two I need. Last and the Bucks.
Okay, last is the Jets.
Oh, yeah. That's what they were, I think.
Then there's
week 1.
Well, that means Bucks are somewhere in the middle.
Oh, I figured they would be. They were higher up anyhow in first week.
They're higher than the Raiders. Oh, Vikings are 16. And Buccaneers are 13.
Oh, look at that.
So they didn't move from last week. The Bucks were 13th last week, and they're 13th.
Oh, is that what it's at?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Packers were 8th last week.
Oh, Oh,
Yep.
that's right. They were one below the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But now they're number 3.
Yeah. Looking down.
Whatever.
Well, they're looking down at win-losses too, so it's a good start to the season. Not for fantasy, but for real football.
That's right.
So something fun happened this week. So Dennis, did you read your comic book yet? And I'm like, no, dude, I can't find it. You bought one. I know. He's been referring to the new Fantastic Four Antithesis. And I misplaced my copy that I picked up at the shop this week. So I said, yeah, we gotta wait, gotta find it. Lo and behold, while I was scanning in all my books, guess what? Found it. So we read it. So we get to talk about Fantastic Four Antithesis. It's a miniseries.
It is a 4-issue miniseries written by Mark Waid, who has been, a very prolific writer. I've known Mark for years. He's had great runs on The Flash and Fantastic Four back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He's written Superman. He loves Superman. The guy's like a Superman encyclopedia. He can just answer anything about the character. He reinvented Superman with Superman Birthright in the late 90s for DC. So he's the writer. And then legendary comic artist master Neil Adams is doing the pencils, not pencils and inks, which he usually does. He's doing the pencils. And what got me excited more was Mark Farmer is doing the inking. And Mark Farmer is a guy who's been around for 35, 40 years, but he's most known for inking an artist named Alan Davis. That I don't think Alan has worked with another inker in the past 30 years. It's just, you think Alan Davis, you're like, well, Mark Farmer's inking the stuff. So Mark Farmer inking Neil is something I've wanted to see forever because Alan Davis, one of his major influences, is Neil Adams. And Alan Davis has always been kind of referred to, even though he has his own unique style, he's like, people would say, he's like a slick Neil Adams. So I've always been like, God, I would love to see Mark Farmer ink Neil Adams and bring that slick brush line to Neil's work, because that's what Mark uses mostly to ink with. And then the colors are by another friend of mine, a woman named Laura Martin, who is just one of the top colorists in the business. So I mean, you've got A-list team on this book. It starts off with the Fantastic Four and one of their old characters from the Jack Kirby days, Annihilus.
I know, by the way, I was very happy. That is for the Fantastic Four villains, Annihilus has always been kind of one of my favorites.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's witty. He's just, besides cool, hanging out in the negative zone. It's always a good, I think he's underutilized. So he's, a lot of times, just like in this one, he's kind of a side character, but it was cool just to see his return once again.
So it starts off where they're in a construction site. Annihilus has gotten free of the negative zone. They've got to send him back. I mean, it starts with a gorgeous 2-page spread of a battle between the Fantastic Four and Annihilus, construction workers running away. I mean, Neil Adams does cinematic, in-your-face, big stuff, and he does not disappoint. After they deal with that threat, they basically go back to their headquarters, and they're getting a babysitter for the night, and it is almost out of continuity. It isn't out of continuity story because Reed and Sue's kids are kids. They're little kids.
Right. Well, it's not in the current timeline.
It's not in current timeline.
I thought it was because they give the babysitter is Agatha.
Agatha, yeah, the older woman.
Yeah. And then it was pretty hilarious because, Reed Richards isn't very big into sorcery and stuff like that. He doesn't like to go visit her. Kind of mentions that. So she gets the kids off to Agatha, who's going to babysit the kids because they're young. But my favorite part was in there. okay, Reed, it's time. It's time for us to go out and have our fun and do our thing.
During this, Reed is in his lab doing geeky science stuff because, that's what he does.
Right, and comes right out and she tells Agatha, yeah, he's really working on something. It's something important. But he's always in his lab, but he's always doing it. And we know from the history, Reed loves his wife, but I swear he loves his science more. And then she's like, Reed, we need to go. Let's go. Yeah. Just a minute. And he's talking about anti-protons and all of this. And she does an awesome trick. She's standing in front of him. She uses her invisibility powers to turn her clothes invisible. So she's standing naked in front of him. And he's like, oh, time. She goes, I hate the fact that I have to do this. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, he still notices.
Exactly. And it's obviously it's a Marvel comic. So Neil Adams drew from the behind, from the back and covered the specific areas with, nice color effect and stuff that Laura did, but she's standing there in the birthday suit. So that's fun. It has some comedic moments in it. The big action moving forward is something basically comes hurtling towards Earth and they don't know what it is. So they all have to go out there and try to prevent whatever this is from crashing into Manhattan.
Right. He says it's like 80 kilos, kilograms, heavy, traveling at like 20,000 miles per hour. Yeah. And they're like, well, and of course, Ben, which is just awesome because they put some pretty good comedy back in Ben. He goes, oh, well, that's not so bad. Right. I thought it was going to be, worse than that. And he goes, well, if it hits Manhattan, it's going to take out 12 city blocks. Oh, that is bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we need to stop it. Sue, use your force field. And she's like, can't. That's way too powerful. So Reed, of course, comes up with one of his brilliant plans using, the unstable molecules, I think, just like in their that something they use like in their suits to help booster it, and they wind up stopping it. It hits, so they've got everybody up flying, and Sue uses her ability with her force field and with the new device, and they're able to slow it down. And it's not the meteor that they thought. It's not a comet. It winds up being there's moaning coming from it, and who emerges?
It's the Silver Surfer.
Oh, love the Silver Surfer.
And we won't spoil why he's here and he's in such a feverish pitch and how he got thrown down to Earth and everything.
And he looks like he's half dead.
And he's just not in good shape. You have to read it to find out why. But I guess a criticism... Okay, so story-wise, I thought Mark nailed it on every point. Mark's always written the characters, I thought, perfectly. But, this actually isn't on Mark. Okay, so art-wise, I love I really, as a fanboy kid, seeing Mark Farmer ink Neil Adams, from what I heard, Neil wanted Mark, because Neil likes inking his own work now, but from what I heard, Neil really wanted Mark to ink the stuff because Mark is from the Joe Sinnott school, and Joe Sinnott was the inker that inked all of Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four stuff. And was a Marvel mainstay heavyweight inker back in the day, and had a very slick brush line, and actually inked Neil Adams on 2 issues of Thor in the 70s, and gave it a really nice slick brush look. And I heard, so I don't know if it's true, but I heard through the grapevine that Neil wanted Mark Farmer because it's a Fantastic Four story, and he wanted that slick brush line that Joe Sinnott had, but Mark Farmer's known for now. So that's what I heard, and I thought the payoff was great. The combination of Neil's pencils and Mark Farmer's inks are just a delight. Laura Martin did a fantastic job on the coloring. I guess my biggest complaint is the fact that they give up the goose on the cover. When you're reading the story and you get to the part where there's that thing hurtling from space,
reveal
down to Earth, you already know what it is. It's the Silver Surfer because of the cover.
Right. And now I picked up the special surfer cover with somebody else on it. And I was like, well, obviously this is just a great cover. I'm picking it up, but I'm like, I was reading the story, I was like, well, I already know what's going to happen here. So
yeah,
I was like, I wasn't so fond of that because it kind of gave it away.
Yeah, it was kind of a letdown. And, it ends with, the reason the surfer's here. And then, you turn the page and the last page is, the cover for next month. And the cover for next month isn't giving anything away because the surfer basically does. And granted, you could go to the internet and see the cover for issue 2, issue 3, and issue 4. And even none of those covers give anything away, but this cover, it just gave it all away. I would like to have seen, because I like to be surprised when I'm reading the stories, I'd like to have seen just the cool shot of the Fantastic Four on the cover by Neil with, a pinup shot basically with no surfer. Because then reading it, I would have really been like, what is this thing coming down to Earth? Because Neil did such a great job at hiding what it is inside this ball of fire, basically, that he drew hurtling towards Earth. You don't know if it's an asteroid. You don't know. It could be any space character. It could be anything. But as soon as you pick the book up, you see the cover, and you automatically know that's what it is. So, it took the wind out of the sails for the big reveal.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, I think it was a really good book. And the cliffhanger part, I'm like, oh my God, now I know why you wanted me to read it so badly.
They saved it with the cliffhanger.
Yes.
Because when the surfer reveals why he's here, that's a good cliffhanger.
Yep.
So the cliffhanger's fantastic. I just wish the reveal of the surfer wasn't given away on the cover. Other than that, I mean, I'll go, because I'm such a Neil Adams fanboy, I'll go a flat 8 for the CGC rating scale for how we rate books. I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to be close to that. I liked the book. I thought it was well written. It was fun. If we take away what I didn't like about the cover with the reveal, I can't wait for the second one because I want to know what happens now. I'm going to go with an 8.5. This is just, I think it's a 4-issue miniseries, maybe 3, but I think it's a 4. And I already added it to my poll list for the rest of them because I really want to see. I'm enjoying this, so I'm glad Andy made me sit there and dig through and find my book. So yeah, an 8.5, and It's got room to get a little bit better. I hope it just doesn't go the other route because I'm liking where they're going with this.
Oh yeah, we'll review this just like we are reviewing Batman 3 Jokers, 1 issue at a time.
Yep, and we'll try and get these out on time, so you can kind of keep up with it. So we had something cool. We've had a couple of people asking. We're getting some requests to review certain movies or certain comics and stuff like that. So we do it. Well, one of our listeners really. They hit us up and they're like, hey, the Deathstroke Knights and Dragons, the movie came out. I really would like it if you guys would watch that one and review it. And neither one of us did. So we're giving a shout out here to Michael Paterzo. He got a hold of us. He said, hey, I've got a copy. I'm going to borrow it for you guys. So I want you to sit down and watch it and review it. So happily, we wound up doing that. So thanks, Michael. And here's the review. So we were able to put it out there. And now just so you know, I'll set it up just a little bit. It is a rated R movie. It's an hour and 27 minutes.
No, 37, man.
Oh, 37.
It's like full blown running time for what movies used to be.
It's like what half the movies we saw in the theater over the last few weeks have
most
been.
Comedies.
Yeah, and it's not for the faint of heart in terms of, don't let your young kids see it. There's bad language.
There's a lot of blood.
Yep.
I mean, bad language.
There's some F-bombs.
Well, I think it was halfway through the movie before I heard a character say shit. And that threw me off. I was like, ooh, I like this. And then when I heard the F-bombs, I heard it once, right? And I thought to myself, that's the one. And then I heard it a couple more times. I'm like, no, Wow.
This is not a PG movie.
And but that was all later on in the movie. But I mean, the blood and, it's Deathstroke. So you got to do it. It's just there, man.
Yeah.
It is. It's the thing I liked about it was, to me, a really good movie has, it's like a wave. If you look at it, it just has nice arcs going throughout the movie, ups and downs, highs and lows. But then you see some movies that basically start off, lower, and then they gradually go up and get you to the highest point of the mountain. And you realize when that happens, and then the movie just starts going down towards the end, and then it's over. So it's just like the shape of a mountain or a hill. But this movie was right on par with, like, just had levels to the point of it, the waves going up and down, just taking you through an emotional roller coaster. And especially with a character like Deathstroke, who you just really... I don't know. Deathstroke to me has always just been, well, okay, he's just a badass assassin.
I hate to say it. I know he's the original, but I've always called him the poor man's Deadpool, even though Deadpool is actually the ripoff of Deathstroke.
Right.
I've always liked Deadpool, better.
Well, to me, Deathstroke was wouldn't Deathstroke take Deadpool out of it? Deathstroke's more the ripoff of the Punisher.
Well, in a lot of ways,
back then.
Yes, with swords. What I liked about this version of Deathstroke was, number one, he was voiced by Michael Chiklis.
Oh, yeah, the Shield, baby.
Exactly, which is one of my favorite dramas of all time.
So good.
Love the Shield, and anytime that Michael Chiklis is in something like that, I'm like, I'm going to check it out regardless, just because I've liked him in everything that he's done. He was in the Fantastic Four movies, and I liked him in that. So anyway, once I found out Michael Chiklis, I'm like, yeah, I really can't wait to see this. And then he was in that superpowered one, that No Ordinary Family.
God, I wish that stuck around. That was such a good show.
I enjoyed that. I really did. I enjoyed that. So yeah, and I'm going to say I think throughout, because this is basically a Deathstroke origin story, I guess you could almost talk about, because it talks about his family.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about his family, and yeah, there's some flashback stuff for his origin. But then what surprised me was his son, and the origin of his son, who is Jericho.
Right.
Which I totally forgot about, because, a lot of time passes in the movie. When you're first introduced to his family, the kid's only like, 7, 8? And then like 10 years go by.
Yep.
So you get to see him when he's 17, 18. And I never was even thinking Jericho until you see what happens to him when he's like 7.
Well, he's Joseph. I mean, they do a nice job. He's just Joseph.
Right. But then you see what happens he gets kidnapped basically. And, you just see what happens. So he gets kidnapped by the Jackal. The boy does, because they use him as leverage because they want Deathstroke to join the Hive.
Yep.
And then Deathstroke has a fight with the Bronze Tiger and Lady Shiva, right? It was Lady Shiva.
Yeah, Lady Shiva.
Lady Shiva. And I got to tell you, the fight scenes in this, they've upped the game when you go see a movie like John Wick, and you see those fight scenes and the quick cuts and stuff like that. And obviously it's like, oh, that's a stunt double. That's not Keanu. But it doesn't matter, because the choreography is so nice during the fight scenes. Damn, if they didn't nail fight scenes like that for this animated cartoon.
Yeah, the choreography was great.
The choreography of these fight scenes and the direction. And I've never done storyboards for animation, but I have friends that have worked on various DC movies. And it was funny, when this one was over, I actually stayed through the credits just to see if I know anybody. And I know one of the storyboard artists that's on it, but there's a list of like 10 or so. And I actually knew one of them because I sat next to her at a convention a few years back, and she actually attended the Kubert School years after I did. She's younger than me. But I love being able to connect and see people I know that work on these and just think like, wow, the fight scenes that they pulled off, and just even the quiet scenes, because, a little behind info on how these are made is the director of the movie will go through the script and then break it down into segments and assign different segments to different storyboard artists depending on the storyboard artist's strength. So if there's a storyboard artist on the team that is really good with fight scenes, well, they're going to get a fight scene. If there's a storyboard artist on the team that's really good at the quiet scenes, they'll get a quiet scene, and so on and so forth. So I thought it was just a really good movie. I mean, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to watch it.
Yeah, it was a solid movie. The weak point in the movie to me is, you always kind of want to have a good, your good arc villain. So they had the Jackal.
Right.
The Jackal was played by Chris Alex, and he was solid. He voiced him over very well. They just didn't give him enough background and enough reason. He was
one-dimensional.
Right. He was a little vanilla. And we all know Chris from, Extraction. So he was in the movie Extraction.
Yeah.
And, so they got a good guy to play him and everything like that. I think the writing was a little weak for the villains. Lady Shiva, when they started bringing the story of what happened with Joseph and how they trained to become Jericho, there's some really cool twists that they, put in there as to what happens and what they're trying to do and what's going on with Hive. So, Hive is they're almost kind of like Hydra, or, they're one of they're just a bad group, and, they try and do things. And then the Hive Queen, I wasn't too familiar with her. Fayamata, I know she does voiceovers on, a lot of Japanimation type stuff, manga type stuff. Again, I liked all the characters that they had in there, but they didn't give enough. They did a great job of explaining the Deathstroke, his family, going through it. I mean, I think it's just top notch what they did with his family. They just didn't give enough setup onto the villain side. So when the big fight came, there just wasn't as much tension as there could have been. It was solid. It was fine. But it could have been so much more. Now, granted, as we talked about, this is an 1.5 hour long movie already.
Yeah.
And I really think they could have spent an extra 10, 15 minutes expanding on Hive's background, and particularly them. I think that I would be able to give this movie a much higher rating. It was good. It just could have been better. And it isn't the best that DC's put out, but it was in no words bad. I rather enjoyed it. They just could have done so much more, in my humble opinion.
All right. So let's give it our hat tip CGC review grade. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. For a DC movie, I thought they did a really great job animated for, an animated DC movie. I like Deathstroke. I like him more now because I never read the series Deathstroke when it was out from DC. Just a few issues here and there.
Yep.
So I was never really like that committed to the character. But like Dennis, I love Michael Chiklis all the way back to the Commish. The Commish.
Yep.
His first show. But then the Shield is what turned me on to him big time.
Yeah.
So when I saw that he was a voice actor, I was like, definitely. And then the woman that played his wife, Sasha, what's her last name?
Alexander.
Sasha Alexander from NCIS. She's fantastic. So it is, though. The Jackal's a little one-dimensional. They kind of delved into everybody but him. So I'll probably go 7.5 grade for it.
Yeah, and again, I think we're pretty close. I'm giving it a 7.0. I would have liked to have gone higher because I thought the animation was great. I thought the action was well done. And there weren't a lot of peaks and valleys. It was more of a roll, but it moved along and it told a good story. If they would have just expanded on the villain side to make the big fight scene not just more important, but to feel a little bit better, I think this would have been, I really could have jumped it up another point and a half.
Yeah.
But I that's where it was kind of lacking in my opinion. But overall, it was good. I like the fact it was rated R because, they were able to, Deathstroke's not exactly a nice character. And it was good that they were able to put some of the violence and, some of the cutting edge stuff that he's about, into it. So I do commend him on that. So I'm going to 7.0.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again for listening. You can always catch us on Facebook, Dennis and Andy Show, YouTube, Dennis and Andy Show, iTunes, SoundCloud, Launchpad, iHeartRadio. My God, we are everywhere.
Just ask your Amazon or Alexa device, and they'll pull it up on there as well.
There you go. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Until next week, grab your 3D glasses.
Get your favorite comic books, roll them up, and put them in your back pocket the way you should treat comics.
Throw your pigskin up on the mantle. This is Dennis.
This is Andy. Later, friends.